Imagine a game where your chance of success is determined by random chance. A game where you watch dice roll after dice roll after dice roll, hoping to get the right result. A game where your victory condition depends on Lady Luck. I am talking, of course, about gambling. I mean Pokémon. I mean both. The parallels between both games are very easy to see. So much so that Pokémon games used to include slot machines and roulettes as a main staple of the series. How did they get away with it? And most importantly, why did they stop? Hello, I am Lyra, and today we will answer both these questions by diving into Pokémon's history with gambling. The very first casino appeared in the Pokémon series as early as Red and Blue. Once we get to Celadon City, we are forced to go through the Celadon Game Corner. Don't let the name fool you. This place really is a casino. How do I know? While the Japanese and English text keeps the secret well hidden, some other translations are not so subtle. We cannot avoid the Celadon Casino as it is run by Team Rocket, and defeating the Nefarious Gang is a requirement for the story. We are not forced to gamble, however, as the entrance to the Team Rocket hideout is simply hidden behind a poster. But since we are here, we might as well pick up the corn case, obtainable from a man who seems to love gambling. Before we follow in his footsteps, we can get a few coins by checking the floor. 290. In theory. See, on this tile, there are 10 coins waiting for us, but because it is on top of a slot machine currently in use, we can't pick them up. Did I mention slot machines? Oh boy, I hope you like them, because it is the only game available in this game corner. Not a lot of variety. Just match all 3 symbols to win, with our most significant input being the choice of 1, 2, or 3 coins determining how many rows count, as well as diagonals. Funnily enough, there is variety in the images themselves, as they are different depending on your version. From the Pokémon featured to the design of the 7 or even the cherries. And people say there are no differences between Red and Blue. If mashing the A button hoping to be lucky is not to your liking, first, you probably shouldn't play a Pokémon game, and second, we can buy 50 coins for the price of 1,000 Pokédollars at the counter. Which means we can completely bypass the slots to buy prizes. What amazing prizes do we have access to? We can get 3 fine TMs, but the real prizes are the Pokémon. The prize corner, located right next to the casino, allows us to bypass having to capture some of the most elusive Pokémon in the game. Abra is teleporting too fast for you? Just buy one. Dratini, Scyther, and Pinsir driving you crazy in the Safari Zone? Turns out you can simply purchase the toughest Pokémon to catch in the entirety of Pokémon Red and Blue. But there is one Pokémon obtainable only in the prize corner. The expensive Porygon, depending on the version, fetching between 6,500 and 9,999 coins. The fact we can just purchase said coins is a blessing, even if it makes the virtual Pokémon cost a pretty penny. After the immense success of Gen 1, it is not surprising we find more gambling opportunities in Pokémon Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Located in Goldenrod, the aptly named Goldenrod Game Corner is an updated Celadon Game Corner with more exciting slot machines. Didn't you wish some golem would fall onto your machine and wreck your score? How about having 7s mess with you? That sounds pretty fun to me. Every machine can also randomly enter an enhanced odds mode. This old man right here plays on a machine that is always enhanced, and if we show up during the morning, his seat is ours. Another game we can play is the new card flip, a Pokémon roulette. We are given 2 cards to choose from every round and must guess what that card is. Like roulette, the more general we are with our guess, the lower the payout. Fortunately, this game is better for the player than roulette, as we keep guessing until the deck of 24 cards is empty, meaning 12 rounds with guesses being easier and easier, and the payout staying the same. Cards, roulettes, payouts? Isn't gambling for children fantastic? Additionally, this part of the game is completely optional, as the game corner is unrelated to Team Rocket this time. While the look and games of the Goldenrod game corner are better than its Celadon counterpart, its prize corner is significantly weaker. Because Goldenrod is in a town we explore relatively early in the story, the Pokémon available as prizes are low in number, level, and excitement. The TMs are stronger, but also cost a lot. If we want better rewards, we will have to look at another casino. Game corner. Since the Johto games also include Kanto, we can go back to the beautiful Celadon game corner and experience pretty much the same thing as the Goldenrod one, but with better rewards. Porygon, Eevee, Psychic, Hyper Beam, anything you could ever dream of is here. You want an overpriced Pikachu? We got it. But what about the stupidly lengthy time it takes to exchange our money for coins? Starting with Gen 2, we can now exchange 500 coins at once. So convenient! Visit the Celadon Game Corner today. With the total Pokémon makeover that was Gen 3, you may be wondering if Hoenn was the first region where people finally realized putting gambling in a kid's game was maybe of bad taste. Well, let me introduce to you the Mauville Game Corner. I will give you one guess as to the location of this casino. This time, Game Freak harvested the incredible power of the Game Boy Advance to give us a truly advanced experience. The slot machines have a side screen, can enter a better odds mode until we hit the jackpot, and can even be charged with a Pikachu until the slot machine explodes. Not literally, thankfully. The card flip game from Gen 2 was replaced though. The roulette parallel may have been too subtle, so now it is replaced with an actual roulette, complete with spinning, ball physics, and the help of either a Shroomish or Tailo whenever the balls get stuck. But what about the best part of the game corner? The prizes. Well, no Pokémon this time. We only get dolls of them. We still get a bunch of pretty good TMs. If we want the good old Celadon treatment of only slot machines and expensive Porygons, we can turn to, well, the Celadon Game Corner, featured in both Pokémon Fire Red and Leaf Green. At this point, we know what this place is all about. The most significant change is the fact we can now get held items as rewards. Neat. Interestingly, there are 2 extra game corners in Gen 3. Located in Fire Red and Leaf Green's Civvy Islands, which I covered in another video, the Joyful Game Corner is not a casino, but a multiplayer minigame area with 2 games, Pokémon Jump and Doduo Cherry Picking. To play these games, you need to either have access to the Civvy Islands or visit the exclusive to Emerald Moss Deep City Game Corner. These local multiplayer games may have been cool additions if they were not hidden so far into each version's story. It was the best of times. Everything was seemingly perfect in the world of fake gambling. But the tide was slowly turning. The content of Pokémon games was being more scrutinized than before. Parallels to real-life money games were not welcome, and Game Freak knew it. As early as 2004, with the English translations of Fire Red and Leaf Green, references to gambling were removed, and the trainer-type gambler was renamed to the hilarious gamer. Look at this man. This man is the quintessential gamer. Funnily enough, the gambler trainer type was renamed once again in Gen 4 to PI. But Gen 4 is where things got weird. By that point, the writing was on the wall, and it was only a question of time until all gambling references were to be removed from the Pokémon games permanently. The Pan-European Game Information, or PEGI, rating, a video game rating system aiming to unify all the different European systems at the time, was created in 2003. And like the American ESRB, warned consumers that the Pokémon games contained references to gambling. Unlike the ESRB, however, who is content with simply a warning next to the E for Everyone rating, a gambling references automatically bumps you to a PEGI rating of 12, the ESRB equivalent of T for teen. For a company that specifically targets young children, that is terrible news. And Europe was not the only region to sway the balance. The strict South Korean gambling laws would lead the Pokémon games to have a higher rating if they kept the Game Corner content in South Korea. Meanwhile, CERO, the Japanese rating board, was totally okay giving Pokémon games an A, the lowest rating a game can receive. Navigating this labyrinth of regulations must have been a nightmare. So, with all this, where do we end up? In a complete mess when it comes to the presence, or not, of the Gen 4 game corners. As far as Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum are concerned, the Japanese and North American versions of every game are untouched. The Veilstone Game Corner is the newest addition introduced in the Sinnoh region, even if it is a lighter version of the previous casinos. We can only play the slot machine, the prizes are mostly TMs, with the occasional held item, and the soundtrack... Never mind, the soundtrack is a banger. Forget the slots, we have a rave party up in here. If you are in South Korea, however, no gambling allowed. The slot machines in Veilstone are replaced with game machines, who randomly give you coins every day, with all the text associated with them modified. These changes carry over to the European version, but only of Pokémon Platinum. If you want to partake in virtual gambling, Diamond and Pearl are for you. Weirdly enough, the PEGI website shows these games as having the same 3 rating as Platinum, even though they feature slot machines. No gambling warning, nothing. We can probably chalk up this inconsistency to the fact PEGI was in its infancy in 2007, still figuring out its rules and regulations, as even the 3 rating would be changed to a 7 for later entries in the Pokémon series. Going back to Gen 4, the Japanese Hard Gold and Soul Silver games were not influenced by these censorship, as the only significant change is the removed card flip game present in Gen 2. The motivation for this removal was certainly not gambling, as the rest of both the Goldenrod and Celadon game corners are untouched. These versions would be the last ones featuring casinos, as Game Freak was ready to say goodbye to the age ratings headache. Every other version of the Goldenrod game corner featured a game called Voltorb Flip. What is Voltorb Flip? I am so happy you asked. Voltorb Flip is what happens when a slot machine and a game of Minesweeper love each other very much. A perfect balance of skill and luck, with a fun Pokémon flavor, a score progression building up to an explosion of coins, making the game devilishly addictive, wonderfully exciting, and beautifully creative. All of it served by the best game corner music in Pokémon history. Okay, so I am clearly biased, but I genuinely love Voltorb Flip. I have spent dozens of hours in Soul Silver just playing this game. It is the reason I firmly believe limitations breed creativity. Because the developers couldn't copy an already existing game, they had to think of something new, and in doing so, gave player a much more interesting game than roulette or slots. Like any game corner before, winning coins in Voltorb Flip allows us to purchase Pokémon, TMs, and held items. And these, as mentioned before, are the final prizes available in Pokémon. Starting with Black and White, the only gambling reference would be the core gameplay itself. But wait, what about the remakes? Well, since the decision to remove the Game Corner was motivated by a desire for a younger rating, it was impossible for Game Freak to keep the content as is. And so, every remake since then has removed or replaced the Game Corners. Pokémon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire have permanently closed the Mauville Game Corner, with the owner instead giving us the 3 doll prizes. Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee made the machines unplayable, and Pokémon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl completely replaced their Game Corner with the metronome-style shop, although they thankfully kept the amazing music. Paradoxically, while the remakes have all avoided an older age rating, the original games eventually got the rating they deserved. With the 3DS re-releases of Gen 1 and 2, Peggy had to give those Game Boy games a new rating, as the original releases predated the creation of Peggy. As such, Pokémon Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, and Crystal are now the only core Pokémon games to feature a rating of 12. Even funnier, in 2020, Peggy has updated their criteria for games featuring gambling. Any game with this tag is now an automatic 18, equivalent to the ESRB's adults only. Meaning if any of the old Pokémon games were to be modified in any way, it would be treated as a new game, meaning it would need to be rated by Peggy once again, meaning we probably won't be seeing any more Pokémon Game Corners in Europe, ever. Regardless of your thoughts on real or simulated gambling, and whether you agree with past and current ratings, you can't deny the inclusions of playable casinos to the Pokémon universe is a strange one. I personally believe Pokémon is better without them, as it leaves more space for the series to do what video games do best. After all, isn't Pokémon an evolved form of gambling anyway? If you are still lamenting the removal of slot machines, and are looking for the thrill of a crazy jackpot after several hours of attempts, maybe you should try this small Pokémon side activity called shiny hunting. Bad luck there will only cost you your time. A jackpot of thanks to JCB TV, SCJ643, Mini Assassin, Y Lambda, Amir Squeer, and Olexon.